the main sort of preventative things that I think everyone's interested in is, ticks, fleas, worms, that kind of thing. And so there are some really nice essential oils that can be used topically. Again, you've got to make sure you've got a good quality one, and you've got to make sure you're using it at an appropriate dilution for your pet, whether they're a cat or a dog or a horse even.
Welcome to the Pet Care Report podcast by PetSummits. Here's your natural dog healthcare host, Alora McKinley.
Well, g'day guys. We've all heard that saying that prevention is better than a cure. So today we're going to be talking to the wonderful Dr. Nat about things we could do to prevent pet disease, and specifically we're going to be looking at essential oils and herbs. Now, Dr. Nat is an integrative veterinarian who specialises in treating animals holistically. She emphasises using a fresh, minimally processed diet, such as a raw diet. Dr. Nat treats her patients with a variety of tools, including essential oils, Chinese herbs, Western herbs, homeopathy, nutraceuticals, and acupuncture. She has created her own line of herbal pet products to support gut health and help pets heal themselves naturally. Thank you so much for joining me today, Dr. Nat.
Thanks, Alora. Thanks for having me.
It's always lovely to have another Aussie on the podcast. And for our followers that may not have heard of you before, can you tell us a bit about yourself and why you wanted to become a vet?
I always wanted to become a vet, actually, as a little kid. I'm sure it's many little children's dreams, actually. But my dad tells lots of really interesting stories about me, even as like a 2-year-old, carrying around frogs and playing with spiders on the wall. And we had lots of pets at home, and I had a really good connection with lots of pets, like a variety of many different pets. And then I grew up and had horses and a really good connection with them, and just a very strong human-animal bond connection with a lot of animals. And they helped me through, the rough times as a teenager and everything. And it was just something I always wanted to do, which is nice. Not everyone has that, and not everyone is able to follow their dream. So I became a vet, but it was a little disillusioning. I did get to 5th year, and which is final year in Australia, and found myself really struggling to get through that final year because I was burnt out. I had my own health issues, and I ended up finding help through more natural, holistic, alternative means, such as a naturopath and acupuncture and things like that. So through my own journey, I then ended up going a little bit more down the natural path.
Very interesting. So when we're talking about essential oils, because I know you've done quite a bit of study into this, what are the most effective essential oils for pet health?
There's so many to choose from, but I do have a couple of like my top favorites, I suppose. And frankincense is definitely one of those. I had a patient today. I've been working at the natural vets today. I'm at the clinic at the moment, if you're watching. I had a cancer patient today, and my favorite one to include to support cancer patients is frankincense. Frankincense is one of the ones I use a lot on my patients because it has so many healing properties. There's lots of great studies. You can look them up on PubMed even about its effect on tumor apoptosis, and really, like, it's quite amazing. Even the research behind it is really amazing. So that one's great, but it's not just for cancer, it's for lots of things. It's as a herb, it's included in like an anti-inflammatory herbal complex called Boswellia that we use a lot here, but there'll be other ones in other countries too, other brands. So it's great for joint health. It's a really good all-rounder. It's quite good just for clearing the mind. So I sometimes would use it in like anxiety and behavioural issues. It's a very good all-rounder, great for skin health too. I've included it in my soothing balm that I created, and it's sort of one of those that you could reach for if you didn't know what else to use. It's one of the top 3 actually that I would say you can use for almost anything. So one of the other ones that I would use for just about anything is lavender. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with lavender essential oil. Unfortunately, I think some people would probably associate lavender with like toilet cleaners and things because it's probably overused in other areas. But as a pure therapeutic grade essential oil, it's a beautiful smell. It's very healing. It's great for the skin, excellent for burns. I have a really good story about my cat that we can maybe talk about later when she jumped on a fireplace. But that's also how it was discovered. Someone burnt themselves and had a pot of lavender oil there and put his hands in it and basically saved his skin with lavender essential oil. So it's also in my skin soothing balm and it's also in my spray that I've created to help soothe the skin as well. And it's something that people can reach for, again, for almost anything, whether it's anxiety and behavioral issues or topical skin issues or even to help them get to sleep at night. It's a beautiful oil to add to the diffuser for lots of reasons. And then probably my top third essential oil would be copaiba, which maybe isn't as well known. Copaiba is a herb, like a resin from a tree in South America, and it's extremely high in like its anti-inflammatory properties. So it's a really nice one to include for any issue that involves inflammation, which is pretty much every disease. I use copaiba orally sometimes if there's some really intense gut health issues going on and we need to directly get to the gut health and help with inflammation there. I do recommend being cautious, though, using any essential oils orally. I think we'll talk a little bit more about safety shortly. And it's in my soothing balm and it's in almost any topical blend that I create for use topically that requires that anti-inflammatory action. It's also nice in the diffuser as well. It's also really grounding and has some really nice properties for the mind. That's the wonderful thing about essential oils is they're quite mood enhancing and mood affecting, which a lot of other modalities sort of don't touch on a lot, mood and behavior. So it's a great, essential oils in general are a great one to use to add in for those kind of issues.
So I was wondering, is there much science then to back up the use of essential oils in pets?
In pets specifically, probably not a lot, actually. There's a little bit, and there's definitely some studies around it being dangerous. But those studies are quite biased in the sense that they've used really poor quality essential oils and they've used really high doses. So one fairly well-known one, I used something like 60 mil of tea tree oil and it was a poor quality tea tree oil and they didn't dilute it and they put it directly onto cats and the results, as I'm sure you can imagine, weren't very good because when you're using firstly a poor quality essential oil and then a very strong undiluted concentration of it, it can be very dangerous. So when you look up things like the use of tea tree oil, there are a lot of warnings online, so you need to kind of be cautious around what quality and what brand you're using. It's really important to make sure you're using a very high quality essential oil, and it's very important to also just dilute it correctly. So when I'm using it, for example, the balm that I've created, my soothing balm, it has 1% essential oil in it. And that's because I want it to be very gentle and very safe. It's safe to use on puppies and kittens. And essential oils are so powerful that is still quite effective, even though it's very diluted. But when you use it straight, it can be dangerous.
So is this something a pet parent should be guided then by a professional rather than going about it themselves? Potentially.
I think they definitely need some education around it. I have done a couple of little workshops and courses and things about it for people, and the main things that I really emphasize is the quality and the dilution before they go any further. It's really important to get those things right. I tend to use doTERRA essential oils, which is a nice world-known brand now, so people wherever you're listening can probably get hold of doTERRA. But there are other good brands. That's not the only one. I used to use Young Living essential oils. I had a really great guru, I suppose, who was part of Young Living a long time ago. Her name's Dr. Melissa Shelton. She's in America, and she's now created her own essential oils for animals. And she's basically led the way. She's done a lot of her own in-clinic testing, essentially, and blood testing, and can really prove that it is safe. And so she was a great person to have as a mentor.
Yep. So then in talking about preventative health, what kind of things can essential oils be used to prevent in pets?
Yeah, sure. So the main sort of preventative things that I think everyone's interested in is, ticks, fleas, worms, that kind of thing. And so there are some really nice essential oils that can be used topically. Again, you've got to make sure you've got a good quality one, and you've got to make sure you're using it at an appropriate dilution for your pet, whether they're a cat or a dog or a horse even. Dogs and horses are going to tolerate it a lot stronger than a cat would. So with cats, you might even start with like a really, really dilute amount of something less than 6%, something less than 1% before, and doing like a little test patch on maybe like their tummy or something, and just checking. Because I actually have had one cat, only one, have a bad reaction to my skin soothing cream. So that was 1% dilution. That was a Sphinx cat, so it was like a hairless cat. So probably a lot more likely to have a reaction. So yeah, definitely sort of need to take each individual as its own and do the test patch. But my favorite ones for like ticks and fleas and things like that would be lavender, tea tree, a lot of the kind of woody oils, so like cedarwood is a good one. Lemongrass is great. What else? Rosemary can be good sometimes, but again, like you would probably just start with one or two, go cautiously, and then see how you go. And that's also why I've kind of created my own product line, because I think it's easier to know that it's been used and it is safe. It's already diluted correctly in all of those things.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's quite a cost-effective solution because, lots of those things can be very expensive.
Yeah, if you want to go out and buy like the 10 different top essential oils for ticks and fleas, you're spending between, I don't know, $30 and $100 per bottle to have your own collection.
It's crazy. Now, when we're talking about herbs, what kind of herbs do you like to use for patients in your care as a preventative?
Yeah, okay. So probably, again, I'll pick my top 3, keep it nice and simple so people can remember. Turmeric is fantastic. Turmeric also comes in an essential oil, which I use sometimes as well. It's commonly used as a powder and in the form of turmeric paste. There's a really great Facebook group called Turmeric. I think it's called the Turmeric User Group. And it was created by a Australian vet on the Gold Coast, and he has a brand called Turmeric Life, and he's really paved the way with that. So turmeric combined into a paste with your the coconut oil and black pepper really helps to activate it and get the curcumin more bioavailable. So by making it more bioavailable to the gut, you're going to get a much better absorption rate, because turmeric can be quite difficult to actually absorb the active ingredient, the curcumin. So I haven't actually said what it's good for, but it's got a lot of studies. It's probably the most well-studied herb for its non-steroidal anti-inflammatory effects, and it's used very, very commonly for pain and for joint problems, but also for gut health issues and probably anything else that involves inflammation it can be helpful for. So then that's probably number 1, and it probably does have the most scientific studies to show how effective it is. So it's very well proven, and its active ingredient is also very well proven, the curcumin. A lot of other herbs have many active ingredients that maybe science could try and like potentize just one of them or synthesize just one of them, but it's actually more the whole herb effect that's really helpful and really effective. And that's kind of the main difference between natural medicine and an actual Western synthesized medicine, right? So, but curcumin's a little bit unique in the sense that, turmeric's unique in the sense that curcumin has really been found to be the main active ingredient. So my second one is probably garlic. Garlic, these are common kitchen ingredients that we include in our foods all the time, or a lot of us do. But garlic also has a lot of studies. It's got some really great anti-cancer effects. Oh, I didn't mention that turmeric's also an amazing anti-cancer herb. So garlic is very, very good at preventing cancer. It's shown mostly, again, in humans. There's not a lot of great science for veterinary medicine in general, but human medicine has lots of great science, and so garlic has been shown in human medicine to prevent and help with cancer, and it's also great for lots of other things. It's a great anti-inflammatory as well. It's great for parasite prevention, and I have included it in 2 of my products. The Defend, I've got it here if you're watching. The Defend Immune Tonic is like my all-round health tonic to boost the immune system and to help a little with avoiding parasites and making pets basically less likely to be hosts, because not every animal in a herd of cows, for example, will have parasites. Only a couple will tend to be the parasite carriers compared to the rest. So some of us are going to get bitten by mosquitoes more than others. Like some beings are just basically more attractive to parasites. And my idea behind the Defend and adding the garlic and some of the other herbs is that our pets are then less attractive to those parasites, right?
Yeah. And
so it's in there. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Because I know garlic's still a bit of a taboo topic. So garlic in small amounts is fine for dogs, isn't it?
Correct. So it has been shown that large amounts of garlic given to dogs long-term and cats can cause bleeding because it destroys the red blood cells. So again, conventional veterinary medicine likes to put a blanket over things and just sort of give one answer. Garlic is bad, never feed garlic. However, in small amounts, it's great, and it's great for lots of things. So you can feed garlic. The guideline is about 1 clove per day per 20-kilo dog. It's quite a bit less for cats. You do need to be more cautious in cats. And in my tonic, I've got a very safe amount, so it's very safe for cats and dogs.
So you mentioned before about like a turmeric paste. Are these the best ways to incorporate it into a pet's diet so that it can help them long term?
Yeah, totally. Turmeric paste is really easy to make. And if you look up that turmeric user group on the Facebook page, there's like loads of recipes. You can make it into little pills. You can make it into like a paste that you keep in a jar in the fridge, and you can add it to their food. It's fairly strong tasting. It's fairly warming too. So if you have a dog that's already too hot and very inflamed, maybe with skin and not enjoying being hot, it might not be the right herb. Although some vets will say turmeric's amazing for everything. There is occasions where turmeric is maybe not a good idea. So that would be one contraindication, is if you have a very hot patient, it's going to be too heating for them. So yeah, you can quite safely add about a teaspoon per 20 kilos twice a day to their food, a teaspoon of the paste.
Yep. And you touched on it just briefly there, but what kind of precautions should pet owners take then if they are going to incorporate these herbs and essential oils into a pet's diet? What should they be aware of?
Yeah, sure. So with turmeric, again, probably not suited to really hot animals. And it also there's a few things such as turmeric that need to be stopped before a surgery because they can cause more bleeding. So you need to stop it, I think, up to about 2 weeks before is recommended, and even like a little while after, just in case you have somehow increased that likelihood of or tendency to bleed a little bit. And then with garlic, yes, it's actually good to give them a break if you were adding it to their food. Better to underdose a little and give them a break. a couple of times a week, not feed it every single day.
Yep. And then, because you mentioned with surgeries, can they interfere much with conventional medicine?
Unlikely. Usually the lovely thing about herbs is you're going to actually get a potentiating effect. So like milk thistle, which I haven't mentioned, but it's probably another excellent top of the list herb, it's really great for the liver and very healing and supportive for the liver. And if you had a patient that had liver issues and maybe even if they were on chemo and they were a cancer patient getting chemo, it's been shown that having them on milk thistle will potentiate the chemo, so you actually need less chemo. So I guess a conventional vet or doctor might be concerned about that, but actually if you're watching carefully and you're monitoring, you can usually reduce the dose of your conventional drugs and get more effect out of less, which means you get less side effects, right? And then if it's something like milk thistle, it's also very protective for the liver. So the liver is going to be healthier in general because it's protecting the liver and it's able to handle the chemo. Like chemo, for example, is often stopped in patients. This is more general, like speaking of human health as well. It's stopped because the person or the patient becomes too unwell, right? But if we can reduce those symptoms, then you could maybe get more out of that medicine.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned before a few of your patients that have had really great success. Can you name any of those stories?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So, I just remembered what my other herb I was going to talk about is my other one, which is also just in most of our kitchens and a very regular culinary herb, is ginger. So one of my favorite topics is gut health, and ginger is really supportive for gut health. It helps with nausea. It helps with digestion. It's also a nice anti-inflammatory, so it's also actually great for joint problems and sore joints. And I have incorporated it into my Restore Digestion Tonic as one of the main ingredients because it's so relieving for all of those gut issues. So it's something like people could even make a tea out of ginger to feed their dog when it it's had a vomit and it's not feeling great, but it's not that sick and maybe not time to go to the vet yet. You could feed ginger tea.
And will the dogs have the ginger tea? It's not too strong tasting?
No, probably not. Especially if they're feeling unwell and they're not going to eat anything. So you would be syringing it into their mouth.
Lovely. And now some stories. Tell us some of these
stories. Yeah, so the reason I thought of my Restore product with the ginger in it is because it has such great stories behind it, and that is really mostly because of the ginger, but also the pineapple in it. It's a apple cider vinegar that I make with pineapple and ginger, and it's been the most remarkable of my products in the sense that it's worked so quickly. So I've had cases of a dog coming in that's fairly well, but it's fussy. It doesn't like bones, or it vomits after bones, or it vomits occasionally, or it just doesn't really tolerate meat. And it's like, but this dog is healthy and it's always been on a good diet. Like a lot of our clients are pretty alternative and feed their dogs a pretty natural raw diet from the get-go. And I remember this one in particular, and I was like, it doesn't seem right. He was just here for a health check. I'm like, try the Restore, see if that helps. And they came back and were like, oh my goodness, you fixed him. Like, he eats bones now. He loves his food again. And it just totally rebalanced his gut health. So I've had quite a few like that. I remember my neighbour's dog, Tilly, she was similar. This is a little while later after I'd had quite a few success stories. And I was just over at their place actually, and she said that Tilly vomits occasionally. And I said, oh, you've got to try my Restore product. It'll work. I promise you, it's so amazing. Like, by then I was really confident. She was like, okay. And then next time I saw her, she's like, yep, she stopped vomiting. So that's very simple. Like, it's apple cider vinegar that I create. It's all organic. I use really good quality ingredients, and the pineapple and the ginger, and together they just awesome. They create so much balance and really help with nausea and other issues in the stomach.
That's amazing. And now you said that essential oils can be safe for like young puppies. Is one of your is your tonic okay for puppies?
Yes. Yeah. I use it in puppies all the time because often they come for their first visit and they're on a kibble diet. And I say, we really don't like kibble. It's highly processed and it's basically going to make your dog sick in the long term. So let's get it on a raw diet. And to change them can be tricky. So they need some support, and we usually add in the Restore to help with the diet change.
Yeah, sounds like it's a great product for just all pet owners to have in the cupboard.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those that I feel like if you get gut issues, especially if they happen regularly, it's a good one to have on hand.
Oh, lovely. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Nat. That was really interesting, and you've given us lots of things to go away and think about and maybe add to our collection for our dogs in the cupboard. Now, what's your number one tip that pet owners can take away from this episode?
Oh, my number one tip, I guess, to have some of these things on hand, like to have lavender essential oil if your pet got a burn, like if you do have a fire in the house. My cat jumped on the fireplace. That's what happened, I mentioned earlier, and I just coated her feet instantly in the lavender essential oil and she was fine, and I was expecting her feet to like blister up. So to have a few of these things on hand as like your emergency medicine, your first aid, and to be prepared for like gut upsets. I feel like you don't always have to rush to the vet if your dog vomits once, and if you had a few tools and you fast them, you add some things in to support the digestion, often they are fine within the next day or so. And if they're not, then it's time to go to the vet.
Great tip. Now, where can our listeners find more about you?
So I have a website, drnats, nats.com.au, and I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, and I think, my handle for that is at Dr. Nats Pets. So again, it's Dr. Nats with an S, P-E-T-S. And I post a little bit. I've got quite a few articles on my website about gut health and essential oils and herbs and raw diets, and just like those general support information. So if people have sort of, I guess, more questions about what we've been chatting about in this recording, there'll probably be a bit more info on my website. And there's a few little posts and things on my Instagram and Facebook about it as well.
Lovely. And we'll add some links so our followers can find it really easy to your social media accounts. Thank you so much, Dr. Nat, for joining me today.
Thank you, Alora.
And thanks to all our listeners for tuning in to another episode. You will have heard my cheeky puppy running around and causing a racket. Don't forget to follow and subscribe and leave a review if you found something in this interview interesting. This helps us to reach more pet owners, and we'll see you next time.